Today on Legally Us, Daymond John is granted a restraining order against former Shark Tank contestants. Plus, Erika Jayne to get her earrings back, NeNe Leakes speaks on her son's arrest, and the hoax that gripped a nation, and what the SAG Strike means for the future of TV and film. We've got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, and welcome to Legally Us. I'm Christina, and I'm so excited to be joined this week by supervising attorney Scheana from West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hi, Scheana, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course, I am so excited to get your take on all of this because there's a lot of big stories this week. So let's get right into it because Shark Tank, this is interesting. So Shark Tank's Daymond John, he has been granted a permanent restraining order against 3 former contestants he invested in after they appeared on the show. So he claims that the 3 have repeatedly verbally attacked him on social media, calling their experience with him a nightmare. So those named in the court order are ex-NFL defensive end Al Bubba Baker, his wife Sabrina, and his daughter Brittany, who are now banned from speaking out in any public forum about their interaction with Daymond after their 2014 appearance on the show. The ruling also ordered the Bakers to scrub their social media of any disparaging comments and any posts that detailed their dealings with him. So they initially had a temporary restraining order, and but now it's a permanent restraining order. So why do you think that this was moved from a temporary restraining order to a permanent one?
So typically what happens is when someone is, whether is in danger of physical harm or, their reputation is somehow being damaged, as we see here, what happens, the petitioner can go to court, get a temporary restraining order. It's very informal as long as you can show some evidence that like I said, your reputation, your physical well-being is being harmed, and there's the potential for it to continue being harmed in the future. A judge will likely just grant you a temporary restraining order. It's usually for a few days. I believe in New Jersey, it's like 10 days. California is about 5, and then it expires, right? So within that time, both parties to the restraining order have to attend a court hearing. The judge will set a date. And it's like a mini trial. Both have to present evidence of one way or the other. And as we saw here, the court found that there was enough evidence to show that a permanent restraining order was valid and one was issued.
Right. So if, like you kind of said this before, but if no physical harm or threats are made, yes, they talked badly about him. Is that harder to get a permanent restraining order when there's no physical violence that was, made, no threats that were made that were physical?
It usually is, because sometimes it's just harder to prove, right? I mean, when you go to court, like I said, it's a mini trial. There's really no jury. It's up to the judge. So typically when we're not dealing with physical violence, physical attacks, it's usually a little bit more difficult to prove. But, in the day and age of social media, when things are in writing and posted left and right, it becomes a little bit easier to show something like this. So, to answer your question, typically yes, but in situations like this where we're talking about reputation and harm to someone's business, it really is just a matter of pulling up emails and right. interviews and social media posts.
Yeah, because he testified in court that some of these comments that were made resulted in a major television network canceling a show that he was involved in. So exactly. Will those people have to pay him any fines as well because maybe he lost out on a big paycheck?
Yeah, so the restraining order will just prohibit certain conduct from reoccurring. It's not going to tack on like damages, financial damages, money damages. So that would be a separate lawsuit. So if he wants to pursue them for loss of business, right? So that's something he can do, but that would be a separate issue and a separate trial.
Got it. I know that, it has the word permanent in it, but is it permanent forever, or does a permanent restraining order expire at a certain point?
So it's permanent forever unless there is another proceeding. So you would have to file a motion. And again, both parties would have to show that, the need for the restraining order is no longer there. Mm-hmm. And then based on a court order, it can end. Otherwise, it runs forever.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's move on to Erika Jayne because she may not be getting these infamous diamond earrings back just yet, despite scoring a legal victory in the case of its ownership. So a judge did rule in May that the trustee overseeing her estranged husband, Tom Girardi's estate, failed to show that the 750,000 diamonds were part of the a part of his estate's property, and therefore more evidence was needed before they could actually confiscate them from Erika. So a source exclusively told Page Six that the judge's decision does not mean that the earrings are immediately given back to her. So she took to Instagram recently saying that she gets to keep her earrings, even though the final decision is still pending. So Ronald Richards, who actually purchased the earrings for $250,000 at an auction, told Page Six that he believes that Erika is misleading the public. He said the court remanded the case for further proceedings as it had insufficient evidence before it to uphold the turnover order. This does not mean Erika automatically gets the earrings back or won the appeal. Her reposting of these claims is creating a false record, and it's destructive towards the buyer of the earrings. There are consequences for impugning the title of the earrings that were lawfully purchased by the buyer. So basically, does Erika get the earrings back?
I mean, I think Erika and her earrings have given Bravo just, a lifetime worth of material here. So this is so multi-layered, right? I think there's so much like clickbait out there, right? Erika wins her appeal. And sort of, she didn't, because she's still not in possession of those earrings, right? I mean, the judge did agree with her that the earrings should not have belonged to the bankruptcy estate and therefore should not have been auctioned off. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they belong to her, right? And so the court just basically sent the case back to the bankruptcy court saying, hey, you guys figure it out. What's going on here? What were the funds? The issue really here is what funds purchased those earrings, right? So did they come from a client trust account? Did they come from the attorney's fees that were legally belonging to Tom Girardi, right? And so there's still so much to be sorted out by the bankruptcy trustees and the bankruptcy court that she may have won the appeal, but the earrings don't necessarily belong to her yet. There's a lot of forensic accounting that still needs to be done. And so to kind of touch on the post, I think she's just in, defense mode. I mean, the girl has been crucified in the court of public opinion. And I think that, this was her way of maybe redeeming herself a little bit, because we've seen an entire story arc on the Housewives. We've seen her, appear millions of times a day, right, on news and TMZ and social media, and people have been crucifying her. So this was, I think, a small victory, and I think she shouldn't have posted because it is slightly misleading, but I see why she did.
Right. So because now these earrings are in another owner's hand, will this owner now have to hand over those earrings? Will he have to forfeit the money? Will she have to buy them back? Like, what kind of happens to these earrings now?
Well, I think it's really going to depend on what ultimately the bankruptcy court decides, right? Because if they are able to, through forensic accounting, determine that the earrings rightfully belong to her and were properly purchased by, proper means and funds that actually belong to Tom Girardi, then the court is going to order likely that those earrings be turned over to her. Alternatively, I suppose they can ask that a payment be made back. But my understanding is that these earrings are worth far more than the $250,000 that the Ronald Richards paid for it. So even if that's the case where he has to pay the money back, that's only what he bought the earrings for at auction. My understanding is they're actually worth well over $1 million now, which is something she'd have to prove. So I think that the court is going to have to be really meticulous here. And if they do find that the earrings should go back to her, there's going to have to be an entire order about how to do so and to make sure that both parties are compensated accordingly.
Wow. Who knew that we would be talking so much about these earrings?
Right. The earrings heard around the world.
Seriously. All right. Well, moving on to more Housewives news. So NeNe Leakes broke her silence on her son Bryson's most recent arrest. So according to court documents that were obtained by Us Weekly, Bryson was booked on multiple charges in Georgia, including violating probation, possession of a Schedule II controlled substance, loitering, prowling, and giving a false name to law enforcement officer after he allegedly told police that he was his half younger brother, Burnett. So NeNe said that he has been battling addiction for years and that there's nothing really that she can do. So if someone proves that they are battling addiction, will they be able to avoid any jail time in this situation and maybe just go straight to rehab?
Yes. So again, it's I feel like I keep saying this, but it really is up to a judge, right? Because you have to qualify. Otherwise, it's not just a decision one way or the other. You avoid 15 years in jail and you go to rehab for like 6 months. So you really have to qualify. The judge will look at your priors. Have you had multiple run-ins with the law for like DUIs, drug possession? Are you really a candidate who could use time in rehab? Because the goal for prison time, rehab, is really to kind of prevent these things from continuing to happen. And so, her son I've looked into his background a little bit, right? I mean, and he's had multiple run-ins with the law, but nothing that involved possession of a Schedule II substance like fentanyl. And so, I think that he may be eligible because of his history to potentially serve or go to a rehab facility, because I think it just makes sense to rehabilitate someone like that instead of, putting them in jail and having the cycle continue.
Right, definitely. Well, hopefully he gets the help he needs. So, as I'm sure maybe you've even seen out in California, that actors have been taking to the picket lines, and a lot of people have been talking about what happens next in the entertainment industry now that, SAG-AFTRA is on strike. So with both writers and actors out of work, which is something that hasn't happened simultaneously since the 1960s. Like I said, fans have been left with an overwhelming amount of questions. So just kind of break it down as to why they went on strike to begin with.
Yeah. So, a lot happening here, right? I mean, we have, it's undeniable that we are living in a time of inflation. And so that plays a big part of why both actors and writers have gone on strike, because they want to get paid more to be able to catch up with the inflation, right? And then you factor that in also with the rise in AI, right. And we live in sort of, I call it these unprecedented times, because, technology is advancing very rapidly and so many industries are being hit. And Hollywood is not a stranger to that. I mean, and so what the actors want is fair pay. And they also want to make sure that they're not being replaced by AI. And what that means is, especially background actors, they don't want their image and likeness to be scanned. Sure. And really what the battle is about, that the studios want to scan their images, pay them the one-day rate, and then just use the digital version of the actor. And look, that's problematic in so many ways, right? So many background actors get their big break while they're on set with, big names, like, Brad Pitt, and, and so when you replace people, you really are sort of shortening the lifespan of a background actor or a smaller scale actor. And that's really what the strike is about.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, like you said, it's not about these big actors like a Brad Pitt and things like that. They're getting the big checks. It's for the people that are showing up and putting in the hard work and all behind the scenes. I mean, eventually, hopefully some resolution will take place. But I mean, how long do you think this will be? What kind of resolution do you think we'll have? It seems like this might go on for quite some time.
I think it will go on for quite some time because, like I said, these are things that we haven't really dealt with before, right? It's not just the inflation. It's not just, hey, we want to get paid more, right? There's so many different components to this, especially when you're factoring in the AI and streaming services. That's a really big one too, right? These actors are taking such a big hit because their contracts stipulate that they should be getting paid every time that a movie or an episode airs, but that's not the case with streaming services, right? Because streaming services, they buy the rights and they can, Friends has been on, I think, HBO for years, and these actors aren't necessarily getting paid every time someone watches it. And so you see a lot more actors show up on TikTok and social media showing their checks, and they're like totaling $8, $5. And it's incredible to see what streaming has done to the movie industry, what AI has done. And so I do think it's going to take a long time. And the only way I think that they can sort of bridge this gap between studio and actors and writers is to completely redo their contracts. Yeah. Because their contracts don't account for this rapid increase in the movie industry and all the changes that are happening.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it seems like some movies may be exempted from the strike but have to follow certain guidelines. Some production companies may just be trying to move overseas. Are we going to be seeing like some people try to kind of work their way around this?
I'm sure, but the union has very strict rules, right? So even if a movie company or a production company takes its film overseas, they can't utilize any of the actors and the writers. And so then what are they going to do? Go overseas and recast and then bring the movie back? Then it becomes like a foreign film.
Right. Yes.
So it would definitely not be as successful, I don't think, and certainly would not get as much traction as, a film starring some of the big names in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see what happens. All right. Well, let's move on to this story that has been gripping the nation for several days and even weeks. So Carlee Russell, she admitted that she did not see a toddler wandering on the side of the highway and lied about being kidnapped in a hoax that set off a nationwide effort to find her. So the police chief read a statement that was provided by Carlee's attorney saying that she was not abducted when, everybody believed that she disappeared on July 13th. She never even left the Hoover area. She returned home 49 hours after a call to 911 saying that she reported seeing a missing child. The police department is consulting with the district attorney's office regarding potential criminal charges. What kind of criminal charges will be in this case? What kind of punishment do you think that she will get?
I certainly think she's going to get punished somehow, some way, right? She is currently being charged with about 3 misdemeanors. But the district attorney is, in my opinion, going to be gunning for her because they want to make sure that this doesn't happen again, right? The amount of manpower that was utilized in locating this missing toddler and her, right? We thought she was kidnapped. There was a man, there's a woman, they're taking photos of her, there's a missing toddler. So much happening here that was a complete and utter fabrication. And so I think they're going to try to make an example out of her that this is not okay, right? We had the Secret Service involved, for crying out loud. This is all coming out of taxpayer money. And, this was a very costly joke, if you will, because we don't even really know why, right? Why she came up with this crazy story. And so, I think that each of the charges carry a maximum of, I believe it's 3 years in prison. I don't know if she doesn't have any priors, she may get away with maybe some community service, probation, but I do think that she'll end up serving some time because of how elaborate and how big this hoax became.
Yeah. Do you think that she'll have to pay back the cost of the search efforts?
Restitution is always part of any criminal proceeding. So absolutely. And I don't think she really sort of thought that through, or she did, right? Because she was searching how much does an Amber Alert cost. And so I absolutely think that she will be slapped with a hefty fine. And whether she'll be able to pay it back or not, I don't know. But I absolutely think. So.
Maybe I don't think she probably thought that this would be nationwide news, but it really...
You would think, right? If you're Googling all of these things, that would be the one thing that you think about.
Right.
The consequences of this. But, it was a poorly thought out hoax, joke, whatever you want to call it. And she should be penalized for all the man hours that went into searching for a kidnapped toddler and an adult that were not kidnapped.
Not kidnapped. Oh, God, what a mess. Well, Scheana, thank you so much for your perspective and your expertise. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you stepping in.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.